Hey guys, this is Dominique Wilkins. Check out the Basketball Time Machine with Shawn David.
Hey folks, what's up? Welcome back to the show. I'm Shawn David. Let's talk some old school basketball. In today's episode, I want to talk about one of my favorite players of all time, Shawn Kemp, and talk about two of the most iconic plays in NBA history and tell you guys the backstory. But before we start with this episode, a quick shout out to my Patreons. Thanks a lot you guys for supporting the show. It's really appreciated. And I would say, let's dig right into today's episode.
Has quietly done a very good job on Shawn Kemp here in this ballgame. 28 in the first half. There we go. We're getting into it now. That's not a smart play. No, Kemp is down. Bodies all over the place.
48-47. Now let me take you back to the late 1980s and tell you how we actually got to this point. Before Shawn Kemp was the Rain Man and one of the most spectacular players in NBA history, he came into the NBA with a huge question mark. He didn't play in college, and even though you could see his athletic ability, Shawn was a diamond in the rough and still needed to learn a lot about the game. When the Seattle SuperSonics drafted Kemp with the 17th pick in the 1989 NBA draft, the team was still finding itself and was not the powerhouse that it would later become. Shawn had it tough in his rookie season, only receiving 14 minutes a game, and you could see he was simply not ready at that time. But he worked really hard at his game, and by his second year he improved drastically. Kemp and Gary Payton were the youngest on the team and became friends and would compete with each other all the time. Gary would throw loves as high as possible to see if Kemp could get them. In 1991, a 40-year-old coach named George Karl took over, and after many battles with Kemp and Payton, initially they would all be on the same page and become a yearly playoff contender. Now, while Shawn Kemp was emerging as a new NBA superstar, the Golden State Warriors, let's say, had a bumpy ride. In the mid-1980s, the Golden State Warriors were a far different team than what would later become Run TMC. Coached by at that time 35-year-old George Karl, it would take a while before the Warriors had the right pieces together to really make some noise in the NBA. In 1988, Don Nelson took over, and with some very good draft choices, the Warriors would have Chris Mullin, Mitch Richmond, and Tim Hardaway, also known as Run TMC. This would become one of the most exciting prospects of the future. The Warriors were really successful, and everybody knew that they had something special going on. But for whatever reason, club management had a different idea. Trading away Mitch Richmond, breaking up Run TMC, and losing their identity in the process. The Warriors would still be able to compete, but it just wasn't the same. Still, in the 1992 season, it looked like the Warriors would still have it, and after winning 55 games, they made it into the playoffs. Also, the Seattle SuperSonics made it into the playoffs. After having 3 different head coaches that year, George Karl helped the team to have a 47-35 record. Under George Karl, Shawn Kemp became a starter, and as a 22-year-old, he was averaging 15 points per game. Kemp still had a chip on his shoulder and wanted to make sure that he was keeping his starting role. In the first round of the playoffs, the Seattle SuperSonics would have the 6th seed and would face the Golden State Warriors, who had the 3rd seed. This was a very interesting matchup since George Karl was the Warriors head coach not too long ago and was replaced by Don Nelson. Also, Karl was under a lot of pressure since the Sonics management wanted to take the next step and was very impatient. During the regular season, the Seattle SuperSonics didn't look too good against the Golden State Warriors. And it was Shawn Kemp who could have decided their last match, but he missed the game-deciding free throw. In this playoff series, Shawn Kemp would get the chance to redeem himself, and I can tell you, this series would be one for the ages.
Well, let's take a look at the inside attack now for the Sonics. It's something that Golden State's obviously very concerned about. Shawn Kemp has had some just dramatic games against the Golden State Warriors. How do you stop a Shawn Kemp inside if you're Golden State that's notoriously not known to be a good rebounding team, but they don't have a lot of bulk up front either?
The only way they're going to stop him is to double and triple team him when he gets the ball down low, and even that is not always that effective with Shawn.
The game started and Shawn Kemp was ready to play. He simply was unguardable that game. A monster on defense, crashing the boards, and the most dominant player on the floor. Tyrone Hill, who was guarding Kemp, was overmatched, and Kemp was dropping 28 points on him. Head coach Don Nelson needed to change something, but for this game, it was too late, and the Sonics took the victory. In Game 2, Tyrone Hill was replaced by Alton Lister, a player that didn't receive many minutes before, but his job was simply to make life miserable for Shawn Kemp. And this strategy really seems to pay off. The experienced Lister was annoying Kemp throughout the entire game and was taking Kemp out of his game. Then it would all come down to one play. Kemp receives the ball and Lister does the ultimate
They won a
no-no.
series against Seattle 4-2. That was the same year they won the NBA title. See, Alton Lister has quietly done a very good job on Shawn Kemp here in this ballgame. 28 in the first half. There we go. We're getting into it now. That's not a smart play. No, Kemp is down. Bodies all over the place. George Karl running out on the court. So now people are going to get thrown out of the game. I mean, that's... Dana Barros just got fined $500 for running out on the court. He is the only Sonic to leave the bench. For Golden State, held everybody back. See, now if Shawn Kemp is thrown out of the game and Lister is thrown out of the game, then Golden State gets the best end of that deal. Exactly right. And that's where in the playoffs, young, you get excited, you've got to walk away from that. Talked about playing on instinct sometimes. If a punch was thrown, he's got to be out. I do not know whether a punch was thrown. I know he went after him. What we might be able to see on the replay is Hugh Evans is checking over at the scorer's table, going to sort things out.
Since this was the 1990s, both players were not thrown out, but just received a technical foul. But Kemp's battle versus Lister went to Lister, clearly. Kemp just shot 35% from the floor. The Warriors won that game, and Kemp had to put up with the newspaper articles saying that Kemp was too immature for the playoffs. However, in Game 3, Shawn Kemp would return focused. He was determined to prove himself. How little did he know that he would always be remembered for that game. Both teams, the Sonics and the Warriors, are evenly matched, and Kemp has a crucial free throw to tie the game.
How many free throws in the backyard? How many free throws in the tournaments? How many free throws in Saturday afternoons is this kid taking? And he hits a big one right here. Kemp with a free throw. 124. Kemp has hit 4 huge free throws. 108 to go in the ball game. Hardaway turns the corner, pick and roll, Acapella for 3. Get out of there at will. Ball rebounded, tapped away, McMillan to McKee. Up to Gary Payton. Lead pass to Kemp. He'll play it down. What a lob! Whoa! Gary Payton with a lob ahead to Kemp. He went airborne, defied gravity. Laid it down with 2 hands, baby. Foul on the play. He will go to the line. 126, 124, 58 seconds remaining. What a play! The Rain Man has struck.
So let me get that straight. In the playoffs, when the game is on the line, Kemp finishes with a spectacular alley-oop to win the game and to bring the Sonics ahead 2-1. Incredible. With Game 4 ahead of Kemp, of course he had redeemed himself, but he didn't forget what Alton Lister did to him. Game 4 would become probably Shawn Kemp's most remembered game of his career. Don Nelson would again put Alton Lister on Shawn Kemp to get him out of his game. But Kemp would not only shoot 50% and score 21 points, but also grab 20 rebounds. And then there was that one play. So everybody, sit back, relax, and enjoy my favorite dunk of all time.
Peter Marcianonis up big. Now takes the 18-footer, rolls off, rebound, Kemp with one hand. Turns and wheels up to Gary. Here are the Sonics with a chance to take the lead again. Here's left side. To the baseline. Slapped away from behind. Ricky goes back to get it. Fires it cross court. Kemp's got it right up into the alley. Power slam! Tomahawk jam! Yeah, baby! Into Lister's face. And the Sonics take the lead. 48-47.
Now Kemp going to the hoop. Wow! Now that is attacking the basket. That's just what I'm talking about with Shawn Kemp.
Alright, you guys, that's it for today's episode. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Also, click on the notifications button so you always get notified once I upload a new video. Also, check out the Basketball Time Machine podcast on iTunes and on Spotify with me and NBA legends. And I will say I'll see you the next time. Peace. I'm out.
I don't think we've seen anyone dunk with that type of
force,
animosity, just like, oh!